This week we're visiting one of the greatest photography cities in the world, Havana, Cuba. In grade 6, I boarded an airplane for the first time ever. It was a flight from Toronto, Canada to the Republic of Cuba. Before then, I had really only seen the middle-class suburbs of Canada. I had just assumed that everyone else in the world lived the way we did. Internet, cable TV, pizza on Friday nights. But as I would soon find out, life is a lot different down here. As we got closer to our hotel in Old Havana, we realized pretty quickly that this place is unlike anything we've ever experienced. Every scene is a photo, and every element of that scene has a story. Havana has just celebrated its 500th anniversary as a city, so there's a lot of history here. The drive into Havana from the airport is really amazing. So many old cars, and I'm kind of overwhelmed with the photographic opportunities already in this city, and we've only really been here for 20 minutes. Like this, and this, and this. It's gonna be a good trip. We're here at the Capitol building, and I don't think I've seen anything like it before. It's a pretty unique structure. It's 1 meter taller, 1 meter wider, and 1 meter longer than the US Capitol building. It's pretty crazy that this building is the lead up to frame the Capitol building, and so much money invested, not a whole lot of money invested here in this building, but it looks like they're putting it back together, so who knows? People still living in it though. Photographically, one of the most interesting elements in Havana are all the buildings that appear to be almost falling over, and strangely enough, there are still inhabitants inside these buildings, and the government will give them another place to go, so you can go to a shelter, but a lot of people don't really want to go to a shelter. They want to continue to live in their home. Right now, Havana is experiencing a huge housing deficit, which means that even though the government will give you a house, that they don't have enough houses to give out yet because there's not enough tourism dollars coming in to facilitate the build. So photographically, while these things are really interesting, you do have to understand that there are still people living in these buildings, and they are legitimately terrified that any day their building could just collapse in on itself, or the stairwell could collapse, or the ceiling could collapse, and it's a pretty scary place to be in. The 35mm lens is my favorite street style lens for both photos and videos. So if I'm out here making any sort of film or just photography in general, I'm always on the 35, and with these Z lenses, you can easily shoot them wide open. So everything today is going to be at 1.8, unless I have a reason to stop down. My approach so far is to just photograph anything that I think is interesting to me, that I haven't maybe seen before, or that I think might come together in some good way. It's currently kind of just middle of the day, so light's not doing anything too interesting, and I'm just kind of getting a bearing on what seems to be working here. And it's a very, very interesting city. There seems like every single street corner, there's so much going on. We're here in Chinatown in Havana, but it might be the lowest density of Chinese individuals in a Chinatown anywhere in the world. So if there's an award for that, I have a feeling Havana, they might take it. Another interesting fact about coming here as a foreigner is you're actually issued tourist currency. So you have convertible pesos rather than the actual currency of pesos that they use. It's a closed currency, so you can't even legally leave the country with it. So no currency as souvenirs are leaving Cuba. So he's a mobile vegetable delivery service. Instead of an ice cream guy, it's just a dude with vegetables. It's crazy that in any other city in the world, this would be the most prime and expensive real estate here on the coast, but in Havana right now, everything looks pretty much ready to be condemned with a couple people still living in here. It's pretty crazy. Behind me is Lafleur Ito, which is one of the spots that Hemingway used to hang out when he came from Key West to Cuba to write. And I think at nighttime, specifically, this sign's gonna light up and it's gonna make for quite an amazing scene, specifically from this angle right here. So I'm excited to come back in a few hours to get that shot.
The sorries of your soul, they are the worries of my house. I hear the wind howling at my swinging door, but at your house the weather's blessed, nothing more.
Today we're doing the quintessential tourist activity here in Havana. We're driving around in a car. Good film vehicle, actually, as far as our purposes go. You can point a camera anywhere, and you don't have windows, you don't have any sort of obstruction. I'm going to shoot some street photos at the side, and it is all dictated by wherever we go, which we don't know. We're on a tour. We're on a tour for a half hour. As we drive around, I'm shooting on aperture priority and focus more on my compositions and actually finding the images. And now we have one last photo to make in Havana. I'm not really sure how this photo became the official photo of Havana tourism, but the four buildings behind me tend to end up in every single Google search and every single brochure you'll ever see of Havana, Cuba. And right now we're gonna photograph the same shot. And I'm gonna wait for an older car that's nice and colorful to be perfectly positioned in rule of thirds in the bottom corner there. And taking the photo 24 millimeters, nice and wide. Because I am pretty much shooting at 24 and I'm pretty close to my subject, I'm gonna have to do a little bit in post-production to make everything look a little bit more square rather than me just aiming up at the buildings. Things tend to kind of disappear to infinity kind of this way. And now all we do is wait for a car. Here's one. Another thing to consider, because it is almost 12 noon right now, the sun is pretty high and there's a little bit of uneven lighting. So I want to do my best to kind of isolate only the shadow areas, including the car that's going to drive by. I want the car to be in the shade as well. So a few requests, I guess, for me photographically. The one thing that I might be missing out a little bit on is the natural saturation of the buildings. If the sun was perfectly on them, the lighting would be a little bit more harsh. There would be some weird shadows, but you'd be getting a lot more color out of the building. There you have it, the quintessential Havana shot. Coming here as that middle-class kid from Canada taught me so much that could never be learned in school. It taught me to appreciate what I had, but it also gave me a starting point to learn more about people and the world. That my small town was not the center of the universe. This time, photography brought me here. Photography gives us a reason to explore, to see old places, new places, and everywhere in between. To dull the edges of the media headlines and see the truth for ourselves, to tell stories, and to make the world a smaller and more understanding place. Thank you so much for joining us here in Havana. If you've learned anything, hopefully it is that you should come here and you should spend your money with the citizens of Cuba. Everyone is amazing, and you can actually do something right now to help the future of this country and the future of the people. So come here. Incredible photographic opportunities, really exceeded all expectations. I felt myself safer here than a lot of places that I've been, and even though it is a lot different than what you're used to at home, and there's just a lot of people and there's a lot of chaos, you feel completely safe, and everyone kind of goes out of their way to let you know that tourists are number one because they understand that you are the number one person bringing money into their country. So thank you for joining us here in Cuba, and I hope that you enjoyed this episode.